welcome to the Be the Ultimate Assistant podcast with Bonnie and Vickie. Hello, everyone. I'm Vickie Evans.
Hello, and I'm BonnieLow-Kramen. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Hi, Bonnie. How are you?
Oh, I'm just great and excited about continuing our conversation with you about being tech savvy. So I think we should just get to it. Are you cool with that?
Sounds great. Yes. I'd love to get everybody up to speed, kind of where we are first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, our listeners are so fortunate to be learning about being a tech-savvy assistant from Vickie Evans, who is the best technology trainer in the world. So take it away, Vic.
I don't know if I believe that, but I am honored that you think that, Bonnie, and I'll do everything possible to live up to that expectation.
You do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, yeah, I'd like to kind of recap what we talked about in the last session. We identified the fact, or I came clean and let everybody know that I'm not a big fan of the phrase tech savvy. I think it's missing.
Without clarification.
Without clarification, exactly. And so I have identified 7 core tech savvy skills that assistants need, and as well as 5 additional specialty skills. And we have a link to that below that identify those different skill sets from a technology perspective, for sure. We also talked about the 3 trends that I'm seeing globally. As RedCape is in 43 countries around the world, is the first trend is the mixture of platforms and technology internally, where the manager is on Mac and the assistant is on a PC. We're seeing that more and more. Obviously, with the various devices, Apple, Google, and Microsoft are the 3 major players with regard to the platforms, the actual computers themselves, the tablets, and the handheld devices. And so having the mixture of devices, internal and external to the organization, at home and at work, makes it more complicated to understand how we work more productively no matter where we are, anytime, any place.
And it's slowing assistants down all around the world. We need to get a handle on this, because it's, we agreed in the first episode that it's a great time to be an assistant in this workplace, but it's never been a more complicated time than right now, and this is a big part of why.
And it just happened to me this morning. Actually, this is a great example of something that happened to me this morning. Is one of my customers asked for a W-9, a PDF of our W-9, and I'm at breakfast. I'm waiting for my colleague to arrive, and so all I had was my mobile device, and so I connected to my OneDrive. I had the PDF there, and I had to figure out, how am I going to get the W-9 to my client in order for us to get paid, and I was able to find it quickly and email it from my device. But it took me a while to figure out, even with my certifications as a Microsoft certified trainer, it took me just a few seconds to figure out, wait, can I do this from my mobile device? And how would I do it? Let's see if I can try it. So I was a little nervous. Not nervous, but just like, oh, can I get this done right now?
It took you out of your comfort zone for a moment.
It did, for sure. And we have a great exercise that we want to share in just a second about that, the whole comfort zone thing. And then the third trend I mentioned in the previous session, or the previous episode, was about the lack of training, even though we're migrating to new technology and upgrading to new technology, that there's just a huge lack of training for everybody, even though it's changing much more quickly. Is it quickly? It's changing rapidly, and it's more complicated with the various devices.
Right.
So
I think it's important to add that a trend we're seeing both in the United States and all around the world is that training for assistants is still considered a fairly new idea right now, and that there's been training offered for leadership, and there's training offered for sales teams, but not so much for assistants. And this area of productivity and technology is certainly raising a red flag for the need. We've got assistants all over the world, and you're seeing the pain, aren't you, Vickie?
Absolutely. And let me clarify that, because there has been training for assistants in the past, but it's been generic training. It's been communication training, leadership training, diversity training, but it's it's pulling every class of classification, every role together in that training. What we're talking about is training specifically for assistants, targeted for the assistant audience. And that's where we're seeing the pioneers like Starbucks and Campbell's and MasterCard and Land O'Lakes and KKR and Apollo and Guggenheim. What are some of the other companies that we've been in?
Well, Dell and
Dell, exactly.
Amazon. We're going into Amazon, and right.
Yeah, and absolutely. And so they've identified that, look, we've got this core audience, user base of assistants doing the same role. Let's provide targeted training, soft skills and hard skills for this audience. And it's great because they're creating these morale events to get everyone in the same room that's kind of doing the same thing. And people are talking about best practices and how they can do their job better, and they're meeting people
Right.
for the first time. So law firms have been really good about this. I think we've mentioned this in a previous episode, that law firms have been really good about segmenting their assistants and secretaries together in one room and providing targeted training to them. So it's awesome to be a part of that, for sure.
Yeah. All right, so Vickie, tell us, don't keep us waiting any longer. How do our listeners become tech savvy?
Okay.
What do they do?
So before I tell you what you do, I first want to explain it's not my intent to worry you or overwhelm you. Identifying the 7 core skills and the 5 specialty skills is going to help you create awareness for yourself of where you are and where you need to be. And we'll talk about kind of Bonnie's and my own experience when we're learning technology. So my first piece of advice, I've got three ideas. Number one is identify the relevant skills necessary for your current role. And if you're seeking a new role, identify what those relevant skills are going to be for the role of your dream job. So you want to focus on that. And obviously, if you are in a company with a Microsoft ecosystem, you won't need to focus on Google Apps. However, if you are working as a volunteer with a community organization and they're using Google Apps, then identify that, you know what, I want to be a better volunteer and collaborate better with this organization and deliver better results, so I'm going to learn those skills. So first of all, identify the relevant skills in each one of those categories. And then, Bonnie, did you have any questions about that before I move over to the second one?
Nope.
Okay.
No, you're on a roll. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So just jump in if you ever.
Okay.
Because I'll keep going. And by the way, everyone, Bonnie and I are not in the same room. I'm here in Austin, and she is at her home in Edison, New Jersey. So both in the U.S. today. So
we love technology. That's enabling us to do this.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know how we're doing this, we're using GoToMeeting, and we're not recording our screen. We're simply recording the meeting itself and the audio, and then Robert Sanders on our team, he will then take the recording and edit down any of our mistakes that we have, because sometimes we pause and we have a mistake and we start over again. So that's the technology we're using right now. So okay, number 2, second piece of advice. I would then, once you've identified your relevant skills for the position that you have or the position that you want, is to focus on one process that causes you the most pain, and to quote one of my students, that causes you the greatest sense of panic attack. And for her, it was the quarterly or monthly PowerPoint deck that she had to merge from 3 different presenters. I think it was actually 4 different presenters into one presentation using the company's template. And it was one of those processes that she knew would take her an entire week to do. She knew that it was going to require her to work extra hours in the evening, and she would always tell her family, this is the week that I need to be at the office. This is, town hall meeting week or quarterly meeting report week, or whatever she called it. So identify one process that you know takes a lot of time, where you find yourself saying, there has to be a better way, or there has to be a faster way. I can't believe this takes so much time to do, or, okay, I need to clear out my calendar because I need to work on this project. There is probably a way that you can cut that time in half, maybe even 75% down. And we have a class, for instance, to target that specific process. We have a class, it's called PowerPoint Slide Masters, and it shows you how to take multiple presentations, pull them into one master presentation, like a template or whatever, and do that within minutes versus hours or days, and do it. And once you get practice doing it, you will become proficient in pulling those slides into one slide deck. You will be more effective and more efficient in that process. And Bonnie and I talk about the learning curve, and that's my number 3 piece of advice, is don't rush the learning curve because it's only going to make you frustrated. Be patient with yourself. And Bonnie, this is where I'd love to introduce the handwriting exercise that we do during our workshop.
Sure,
Lead that
absolutely.
for us?
So our listeners, I hope you have a pen or a pencil in your hand and some paper. I just want to ask you to sign your name. Just write your signature the way you would on any form.
And I'm going to do that right now. I
Okay.
need to find
Yeah,
paper.
me too.
I don't have
Right,
paper in my house.
right. Filled with devices.
Okay.
And then I want to ask you to put your pen or pencil in the other hand and do exactly the same thing
So
and see how that
I'm
feels.
signing my name now with my left hand
And
somehow.
which is, and you're not a left-hander, right?
No.
Okay, and how does that feel?
It looked horrible. It feels awkward, and I'm really
Yeah.
disappointed in myself that I
And how many times would it take for you to get good at that, do you think?
I don't know how many times. I know it would take lots and lots and lots of practice
Practice,
and
because
time away from other things.
and practice is what it takes to get good at anything, right?
Right, right.
And our listeners know that. I love this little exercise because it seems to me to be a microcosm of what the profession is, and basically it's a metaphor for life, because I think on most days we do things that feel like we're writing with the hand we always write with. We know what our day is going to be like. We know what we're doing. We drive our car. We do hundreds of things so naturally and effortlessly. But then in this complicated workplace, we bump up against things that slow us down and stop us dead in our tracks, like the first time you're asked to do that PowerPoint presentation. I mean, I admit that when I worked with Olympia Dukakis for 25 years, I never needed PowerPoint. And then when I left and became a speaker and owned my own company, I started my first presentations, I didn't use PowerPoint because I didn't know how to use it. And then I started using it. But when I started using it, I needed someone else to run my slides for me because I didn't feel confident to give the speech and do the slides at the same time. And now I'm happy to tell you that I can do all of it. But it's so important, when you think about, sometimes Vickie and I will say to each other, Vic, that's like writing with your other hand.
Mm-hmm.
We'll refer to something as it's new. We've never done it before. That's what happens. So we have to be patient with ourselves and knowing that the learning curves are going to keep happening. The given is that they're going to keep happening, so we can't be surprised when they fly in front of us. And the second thing to know is that we have to be patient, as Vickie said, with ourselves. And the third thing you need to know is we need to be patient with other people, because the things that are slowing us down, because not everybody has the same kind of comfort level learning the new technologies, and like look at this list, the cloud and apps and gadgets and blah blah blah. We need to notice that other people are also getting slowed down by the things that take them out of their comfort zone, which may not be the same things that are for you, which is why we need to collaborate and share information and learn from the experts like Vickie.
Well, and I'd like to add to that because I need to tell you the RedCape story, how I came up with the name RedCape, because it really applies to what you just said. I had a client who I was supporting. She was in New York City. I used to be a personal assistant in New York City, and so that's how I met you, Bonnie. And when I moved back to Texas, I was still supporting this one client based in New York. And at some point, when I found out that it was an assistant, and I found out she was paying for me coaching and technology help, I created a wine inventory database for her and her team for her executive and for their home. And I found out she was paying for me out of her own pocket. It wasn't her employer paying for the technology training and coaching. She was paying for me out of her own pocket. And she says, well, I said, why isn't your employer paying for the training? And she said, I can't let my employer know I don't know Access.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know this technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, wait a minute, you've got them, but who's got you? And all of a sudden when I said that, I saw Lois Lane falling and Superman catching her, and he goes, don't worry, I've got you. And she goes, you've got me, who's got you? And you're the superhero assistant, and sometimes technology leaves you powerless. Think of us, myself and my training staff, as your red cape. And Bonnie, your training is going to be different than the training that your assistant needs. And same thing with another executive or folks that are on Mac. Everyone's training is different, and so it's kind of a one size fits none where everyone needs a different cape. And think of these technology skills as different capes you need to wear. And so that's the concept of red cape, and I've never really told that story publicly. I probably should.
Yeah,
But
I love it. I'm so glad you did. May
and
I add something?
yeah.
It's you're part of the story how the assistant was so fearful that to let her employer know that she didn't know Access. We're seeing right this very minute, I've spoken with assistants just in this last week who also are having the fear factor. And it doesn't serve companies for us to keep that information from them about what we need training in. We can't see it as such a weakness because, I mean, look at this list of 12 things that could spin out into so much to know to do our jobs really well. So I really just want to add to encourage and support assistants anyone listening, whether you're a recruiter or a manager, we need to encourage speaking up among one another about what we need to do our jobs really well.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when you talked about cutting other people's slack, what was the term that you used, or just be patient with other people?
Yep.
That was really a call for those of you that are hiring managers, or that you have an assistant, that you be patient with the assistant and help them identify what the relevant skills are, and help them identify the training to get them there to where you need
Right.
them to be, versus, oh, you're fired. I mean, because our colleague was fired, let go, because they lack the technology skills. Training is everywhere. I mean, you can go on Google and search anything you need as far as training. But I think that having these three things, identify your relevant skills necessary for your specific job, whether your current job and your dream job, focus on one process that causes the most pain or panic attack and anxiety in you, and then be patient with yourself and don't rush the learning curve. If you have to take three things for that specific skill, like if you have to learn how to use the reset button in PowerPoint, or create a layout, or maybe position things on the slide, just take three things at a time with PowerPoint, and then focus on three more things in PowerPoint and three more things. And we can certainly help you get there.
You bet. So how do they get there?
So how do they get there? Good question. What a great transition. And we didn't really plan that at all. It just happened. So a couple of things. So it depends on who you are. Like if you're interested in for yourself, like training, I need to assess myself. I need to figure out where I am, versus I am a group lead. I lead a team of assistants, and I want to get our entire team of assistants up to speed on the relevant technology within our company. So if you are looking for training for yourself, the first thing I would do is we've got a free set of videos on our website, and I will be sure to include the link in the podcast on the podcast page. But if you go to redcapeco.com, redcape as in Superman with the CO at the end, redcapeco.com, and click on the tips tab, there's a sign up for the free videos, and the first email you'll receive has a link to a few word tips, and then 2 days later I'll send you another email with Excel tips, and then 2 days later I'll send you some PowerPoint tips. If you can't, so watch those videos and assess yourself, because those are the essential skills really every user should know. And it comes from my book 100 Tips Using Microsoft Office. We have an Office version for PC and one coming out for Mac if it's not already out, depending on when you're listening. So those are my favorite tips from the book. If you can't wait for the second email for the Excel tips, you can't wait for the PowerPoint tips, in each one of the emails is a link to the full webinar for the tip series. So you can go ahead and watch the entire webinar. That's a great way to A, learn some new tips, and B, assess yourself. Because if you know many or all of the tips that I'm demonstrating in that webinar, then you're probably ready to get certification. If you don't know as many of those tips, like some of them are new to you, then you might be at the 13% mark. And so that'll help you gauge where you are, if you're at 13% or somewhere somewhere higher, closer to 80% by watching that. If you're a team lead and you're interested in assessing your entire team, we do have online sessions that you can broadcast in a group setting in a conference room. We also have on-site, so I can come out on-site and inspire your team. I've got a comedy background, so it's very entertaining. It's probably the fastest 2 hours of anyone's life. It goes by quickly, and I show all of the tips and tricks, about 30 to 40 tips and tricks from the Microsoft Office system, either on PC and Mac, and that's a great way. And then what we do is we then survey the group to find out where they want to focus their skills. So then you might have a core group that wants PowerPoint training, might have a core group that wants more styles and style set training, and so on. So those are my two two areas that you could do to assess yourself. Anything you want to add, Bonnie, before I talk about the 15 minutes a week?
Right. Well, just one note I made is that what we know for sure is that some training is better than no training at all, that most of us are self-taught in all these technologies, and it's just not working anymore. So we have assistants all over the world now reaching out to their executives and managers and saying, we need this, and creating things like lunch and learns where they teach one another. And Vic, maybe you'll cover what they're doing at Starbucks.
Yes.
That's really cool. So, about our workshops, and the good news is that there are so many more options now than there have been even 5 years ago. So that's the good news for everyone listening.
Yeah, and let me mention about the workshop. So our 2-day workshop that we have 5 around the world. We have 4 in the U.S. and 1 in Europe each year. We have on day 1, there's 2 hours of my signature tips and tricks session. And then on day 2, I do an hour of social media privacy, and then kind of a free-for-all 1-hour session. We've been typically doing LinkedIn for assistance, or we'll kind of cover additional skills that people want from the first day. So that is a great way to spend the weekend with us and hang out with 29 other executive assistants or personal assistants in the room around the country, around the globe actually. And then the other thing, I want to mention what Starbucks did, which is really phenomenal. They brought me in April of 2014 for Administrative Professionals Week, and we did a full day event. There were over 100 assistants in the room, and nobody had computers, and we did 90-minute tips and tricks session, then a 15-minute break, then we did an Outlook tips and tricks session, then a lunch break, SharePoint tips and tricks after lunch. We had a 15-minute break after that, and then we did Office themes and templates. That went really, really well. It was very entertaining. It was the fastest day of my life. It went by really quickly. And the strategies I provide as far as learning, everyone received a copy of the book, so they all had the step-by-step instructions. I recommend after any one of my sessions to focus on 3 tips at a time, because we don't want you to get overwhelmed by 30 or 40 tips at a time. Focus on the 3 tips that really resonated with you. And then we retain 90% when we teach other people. So my next strategy is to go out, learn those 3 tips for yourself, master them, go back and learn 3 more, master them, but then go teach someone the 3 tips that you mastered, then 3 more that you mastered, and 3 more that you mastered, because that'll help you retain. So do it. I joke around, do it selfishly. Like, you don't care about your coworker actually learning the skills, but you selfishly want to retain 90% of what you're learning. So then what they did, they emailed me later and told me that each one of the 100 or so assistants, I think it was like 110 assistants, they committed to learning 3 tips and then hosting a lunch and learn. And that way they all got a chance to host a lunch and learn and train their coworkers. And not only that, is they used relevant examples. They used their own employee handbook or their own proposal to format in Word and create a table of contents. They used their own spreadsheets versus my generic spreadsheets that I use in class.
Yeah.
And that way, by the year end, they all know 100 tips. So yeah, it was really exciting.
So great. Assistants all over the world it's such a great story, and we're hearing and seeing that assistants all over the world are figuring it out, slowly but surely revealing that, they know that there's a skills gap in our workplace today, and we need to solve it in order to stay relevant and marketable and invaluable to our companies. So, Vickie, the sad news is that we have to wrap up this episode.
No.
And so I know our listeners have learned so much, and I have one thought to share as a closing thought, and I'll leave the last ones to you. But for our listeners, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Nobody knows it all, not even Vickie, right, Vic?
Right. I can't tell you how many times Bonnie's like so excited when I get frustrated with technology. She
I'm like,
loves
even
it.
you,
Yeah,
even
she's
you.
like, oh, Bonnie, this, or whatever. It's like I can't. I've got a learning curve myself when it comes to email marketing and technology, things like that. And yeah, yep. I hear you. I get frustrated too. But can I add to that too? Because I would recommend attending conferences, and even if you think you know OneNote or digital productivity, find out what's happening. What are the new trends? Because all these conferences, IAAP, Behind Every Leader, APC, all of these executive secretary, they're bringing in the trainers and instructors that are using the latest and greatest technology and are up to speed on what's happening and seeing what's trending now. So attend as many tech sessions as you can so that you can see how that relates to your own organization or to a future job that you might have.
And Vic, just share one or two of your favorite websites for how do you keep up with what's coming next? How do you know?
Okay, so here's the one thing I want y'all to do is there's a so myoffice.com. I have a Google alert set up. Anytime something's happening with Google Apps, Gmail, social media privacy, Office, Dropbox, OneDrive, anything that Assistant touches, I have a Google alert set up so that it keeps me informed. Like, for instance, Dropbox and Microsoft just partnered, and now you'll be able to edit Word and PowerPoint and Excel documents in Dropbox, and that happened here in April 2015. So I'm not sure when you're listening to this. So I would recommend for you don't have to set up the Google alert, because I will filter everything for you. I would definitely monitor the RedCape Co website, our Twitter feed, our Facebook account. We're at RedCape Co is our handle on all of those sites, because we'll be pushing what's relevant out to you. Secondly, I would carve out 15 minutes a week, just 15 minutes a week, and go to aka.ms/offweb, OFFWEB, as in boy, and we will include the link below. And those are 15-minute webinars that Microsoft did for 2.5 years. They've since canceled that as of October 2014. And it focuses on just 15 minutes on a particular skill in the Microsoft ecosystem. RedCape will be launching a Tech in 10 weekly video series, and so we'll be posting out relevant 10 minutes relevant skills in Google, Apple, and Microsoft each week in 10-minute segments that you can keep up with
That's
what's
cool.
going on. Yeah,
I'm so there.
Yeah, so I just hired a team. So we've got a nice, great marketing production team going to be working on that. So I would just devote 15 minutes a week, at least right now, to go to the aka.ms/offweb. We'll include the link, and just go one by one each week and see what the archive session teaches you.
Right.
So those are my two best thing. If you want to set up a Google alert, you can. Definitely subscribe. Actually, there's 3 Google alerts. Go to my website and sign up for, make sure we're connected on LinkedIn, Twitter, and on facebook.com/RedCapeCo, and then aka.ms/offweb are the 15-minute
Right.
sessions.
And if anyone is interested in certification, Vickie, you've got your webinar on your website
Yes.
in Microsoft Office, which is a great thing to check out your free webinar about that.
Yes, it's a 1-hour webinar, just real quick. 1-hour webinar, 5 quickest steps to certification, and it has an action plan. And I'm going to be going through OneNote certification myself in 2015. So if anyone is interested in getting their OneNote certification with me, you're welcome to join us. Just let us know on our Facebook page, and we'll get you connected. Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps us up for today's episode, and I want to thank you, Vickie, so much for sharing just these gems from your brain about what it means to be tech savvy and how we can successfully navigate this workplace technologically without making us all crazy and with a minimum of angst. So we thank you for that. And why don't you wrap us up for today?
Thank you, I will. Thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate, being able to devote these last 2 episodes to this topic. There's still so much more, but please know I don't want to overwhelm you. You can do this. Let's do it together. So anything we can do to help you, let us know. We're in here to help you. And we're also hiring tech savvy assistants. So if you are tech savvy in a specific skill, especially for our Tech in 10 series, so if you are a subject matter expert in project management or in LinkedIn or whatever, definitely reach out to us at support@RedCape Co. We'd love to feature you on the show or in a blog post because I can't cover it all. Our team can't cover it all. You are the subject matter experts out there. So let's spotlight and highlight your skills. We'd love for you to be part of the RedCape community. So thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Bonnie. This concludes today's episode. We'd love your feedback, topic ideas, and questions. Visit the podcast page at betheultimateassistant.com. Thank you once again for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Bonnie.
Bye, Vickie. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.